one is the hardware tokens that we're distributing. They're these little things about this size. It goes on your keychain. It does not require any kind of network access. You could be in a sealed, container way below Earth, and all you do is, press a button and you get your code. That's a really good solution. The other option that you have are the other non-network required options where, like the time code that John showed us, where you go on your phone, no network or cell access needed, and you go into the app and you press a button and it gives you a code. And so that's another approach. So that's one thing we really wanted to make sure that we put into place with the new two-step authentication system. We know a lot of people are in situations where they go down in a basement, even on campus, and they don't have cell coverage. And but now from the login screen directly, you can choose a different method, and that way you're not stuck with only one and having to call the help.
Another alternative to printed list, though, would be the call, right?
Yes,
Landline
absolutely.
telephone. So if it can call you at your desk.
Right.
It doesn't have to be your cell phone, and then you just press one for yes or press.
But if you're traveling, besides that.
The telephone number we covered for almost the entire world. It depends on the cost of the telephone call in the different countries. Most countries, all except a handful, where you can actually do a call. We covered, I think, all but one or two with the text messages. That's an improvement from where we are right now. Yeah, the 13th. The important thing to understand about the 13th of December is we don't require anyone to do anything at that point. In fact, we won't require anyone to do anything at any point, really. That's the point where you have additional options available to you. And we'll send out notifications saying, hey, you've got some more options now. We encourage you to set up a secondary device so you can have an alternative. But there's not a cutoff. And in fact, all the current options will continue to work past that date.
So May 31st as well.
May 31st is a little different, and I know I really appreciate HNS really emphasizing the importance of getting rolling on encryption. Now, when we come to May 31st, it's highly unlikely I'm going to flip the switch because paramount to all is the university's mission. Research, teaching, learning, healthcare. We'll look at the numbers at that point, and we could do it per network. If a group says, I bet you HNS is going to be in great shape, and they're going to say, hey, for these networks, we think we've got everyone. So let's go ahead and flip the switch on those networks, and that way people will get notifications, and the restrictions will be in place. I'm not going to flip the switch for the university on May 31st. Which was about privacy and Big Fix. It's a topic we discussed at length with the faculty committee that we set up back in February. It was a great dialogue with representatives from around campus, including the provost. And one of the concerns was Big Fix and privacy. So what we're doing for that is you have SWADE, right? SWDE. We're also we're working on something called VLORE, like on the VLRE as a backronym. I'm not even certain what it stands for, but very lightweight reporting engine. Yeah. But what that does, it's a read-only agent. So Big Fix, by its design, can patch your machine. That's what it's there for. Big Fix has saved the university from countless incidents. It's protected your personal information. The very first thing, when your computer gets compromised because it's not patched, first thing that goes is your privacy, right? Anything you type could be sent off to the bad guys. So this tool is protecting us. We have more than 300,000 computer years of experience with Big Fix. I think we're closer to 350 now. Anyway, great tool, but yes.
But large contingent of faculty that will not go there.
Yeah, so they
use email and document handling. That's all they do. I mean, they're literature people. So it's hard to convince them.
Yeah, so for people that attest to not handling restricted or prohibited information, will have the option of using Velour, which is a read-only agent. It cannot modify your computer. All it does is tell us, is your computer encrypted? Do you have a password on it? Or are you patched? Those things. Does it modify your computer? It can't. Now, if it comes back and says this computer is not encrypted, we will use that information to restrict access to the network resource. And that was the agreement we came to with the faculty. That they figure, hey, you can't modify my computer. It puts the responsibility on me to keep it up to date, keep it patched, and all that. But yes, I understand that we will be restricted.
I would just add from the privacy perspective that it's important for us, and we understand that there's probably historical laptops that have been out there for 10 plus years. I would ask how someone can use a laptop that's that old, but
Come over
ignoring
our
that question
office.
for the moment, it just make reasonable attempts so that, because these things turn up. I've had a pawn shop contact me to let me know that, oh, we've got one of your laptops because the university's name pops up here, that a faculty member lost like 8 years prior to that date. So they do have a tendency to find, sort of refilter up. And just to mention, there's a news report in a local paper indicating that there were a number of stolen laptops occurring on our campus. And so there's this flurry of questions running around, like whose laptops were they? No one reported them. So the news media also picks up on these kinds of things, and they love this kind of thing. So just to the extent that we can take reasonable steps to identify these laptops that are floating out there, I've seen faculty give them to their kids. Also, they're out there somewhere, and if we can just get a list of ones that we can find and understand the risk there, I mean, at least that puts us in a better position going forward.
If there's a computer that really cannot be encrypted, or the software installed, there's an exception process. And we currently have about 1,300 exceptions across the university. And but we do look at those and say, okay, let's apply some standard to it, whether or not it merits the exception. But that's the process we put into place to ensure that especially lab equipment that is operated by, like, let's say a Windows XP machine, and the software is custom software written by a grad student several years ago and can't be upgraded. We had to have a mechanism for a lab like that. So that's what the exception process is. The way it's set right now is if you have a personally owned machine that's used for Stanford business, we want that to be encrypted. And admin guide 621 was updated earlier this year to reflect that. It really was already said that, but we just made it more clear. And but especially in cases where someone is handling the restricted or prohibited data, that was already very clear. This should always be encrypted, even if it's your home machine. And we've actually had that happen. Someone's home machine gets stolen, then we have to worry, oh no, did they have this data on that machine? So yeah, basically any machine you use for Stanford business, especially when you're dealing with prohibited or restricted data, should be encrypted.
So we're really looking at the data, and so again, as is the case with student interns, it doesn't really matter if you have an employee using the data, or a faculty member, or whoever it may be, as long as that device is protecting that data. It wouldn't make sense for these two categories to have certain requirements imposed upon them, and then this third one say, oh well, it doesn't apply in this case, because we want to remain consistent across the board.
Oh.
The risk follows the data. That's a given.